ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
You can't handle the truth. Truth.
Good morning, beautiful people. We are live.
The sun is rising, the sky is blue. Good morning, grand risings. Let's see what's new. It's the time of day for Sonia and crew. Good morning, grand risings. It's time to wake up with Sonia Poulton. Sonia Poulton. Sonia Poulton. Sonia Poulton. Poulton.
Good morning and grand risings to you all. How wonderful to be here. Let me just flip around with all this stuff as I always need to. It is 09:01 a.m. GMT on Friday, the 20th of December. And thank you all for being here. Oh, yes. Thank you all for being here. And I could see Marcuson in the comments with all the music jingles. And he, of course, is responsible for our lovely, lovely jingle. This is in my head all week, said Crazy Bunny. Crazy Bunny, you are not alone. You are far from alone on this. We're all being NLP'd by him. I'm not sure if this is a good thing. Steve Paul, good morning to you, Steve. Steve says, always look forward to my Monday and Friday dog walks with Sonia, but today we'll be listening and watching live from my treadmill. And Steve has also been NLP'd by our opening jingle. How are you all? Wonderful to have you all here with us. I saw some newbies. Yes, Sean, do you like my Christmas jumper? Got a Christmas jumper. Thank you, Elaine. I so appreciate that. Did you see my tweet with sky stripes on it? No, Shalini, is that this morning? I've not seen it, my love. And you can't handle the truth. Where is that one? This one. And I did see a newbie. Morning, everyone. Waiting for my first live show. I'm well excited. Usually I was on catch up. Good morning, Dodger. Lovely to have you with us, Poppet. Lovely to have you with us. And all of you wonderful people, our beautiful mods, of course, Soul Sound and Crazy Bunny and Jackie and Robert and Marsh Girl and Kevin and Catherine and Merv and Randy and Louise and Sean and the Rec Law and on, and Lisa and Peter and Josie and Katie. You got it, people. Welcome to Wake Up with Sonia Poulton and guests. And yes, Craig, good morning to you. How are you, my darling? And today's show is all about power. I'm your original mess around and find out gal. And honestly, today, tomorrow, such an auspicious time. It's always an auspicious time if you want it to be, and I do. So, as I say, today's show is all about power to know who you are and to act on it. And I'm coming at you as your news pocket rocket, as somebody once described me. I'm seeing all different state agendas currently being played out and realized at the moment. And it's honestly, it's painful to keep being proven right. It really is currently. This unconscionable Labour government are using the murder of Sara Sharif at the hands of her father, her stepmother, and her uncle in order to push through a new agenda. Well, it's not actually a new agenda; it's actually an old agenda. But they've got a new wagon in which to hitch their star to. Also, on today's show, Steve James, the ex-firefighter who stood up to tyranny, together with Darren Nesbitt, the editor of the Light newspaper. They'll be joining us to talk about their new film. And Katie, you got my mug. You got your mug. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Wonderful. We'll also be joined by lovely Marie McLaughlin, who's going to be talking to me about winter solstice spirituality, because it's winter solstice tomorrow. Plus, BBC ignores anti-government song freezing this Christmas, but we won't. Oh, no, we won't. Plus, more Diddy lawsuits, but this time with a twist. Jay-Z lawyers seek to dismiss the allegations against him. UK politics. We'll be looking at the Gates Musk hypocrisy. Plus, GB News bloodbath. Sadiq Khan's LTNs take a high court hit. And I'm here cheering. California is now in a state of emergency because they are being run by a globalist governor. And there's new evidence in the Lucy Letby case. And we're going to end with the power of being uncontrollable. Oh, yes, we are. The power of being uncontrollable. And I just want to say a very sad note, actually. Anyone familiar with Kevin Sutherland? He was a survivor of the care system. He made very serious allegations about a broadcaster who is based in the UK. I'm not going to say the name of that broadcast, because that broadcaster has not had a chance to respond. And I believe that the police never investigated. But to my understanding, Kevin has taken his own life, that is. On Wednesday night, he tweeted his goodbye and said he was taking his own life. He felt failed by the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. And it would appear that this is what Kevin has done. Search and rescue have been out in Scotland, but sadly, his own sister has said she believes he passed over just before 2 a.m. in the early hours of Thursday morning. There is so much more that will be said, no doubt, about this in the coming days. But for now, I want to say rest in peace to Kevin. You were failed by the system and more. Okay. And what about Epstein friend and Dark Lord, Peter Mandelson? He's been lined up to be named as the UK ambassador to the US. And while I'm on it, I note that politicians have now started their Christmas holidays. They won't be back until Monday, the 6th of January. These people, they have so many holidays. They do. It's insane. It's wrong and it's insane. And Ian, one of the earliest commenters on the live stream this morning, actually it was yesterday, I think, said, happy Crimbo, Sonia, to you and all your family. Keep up the excellent work. Hoping 2025 is kind to us all. Indeed. And talking about that nice cup of tea, I received this from Darren. Darren said, nice cup of tea this morning. Love that cup, Darren. Love it, love it, love it. I can see Darren likes his tea fairly strong. I would have taken my bag out by then, but hey, we all have different taste. And that's what makes it so great around here. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. And I recorded our Christmas special on Wednesday. It will go out on Friday, the 27th of December. It features Matt Landman. He made a film about 7 years ago about geoengineering. And so our conversation is about weather manipulation and geoengineering. I also talked to Professor Richard Gill about an overview of the Lucy Letby case and the new updates. And I also talked to Richard Gage, formerly of Architects and Engineers of 9/11. He's part of our Christmas special. And as indeed is our Mod Shin, who's doing a song for us. And also this, a brief glimpse of this.
It's Deputy Prime Minister, proud Northerner and Basic Instincts enthusiast, Angela Rayner. I just wanted to give a special seasonal message to our son and all the subscribers and watchers.
Love Intel lady, love her so much. And my doggo has been with us 4 years today. 4 years. I literally can't believe we've survived. She was found on the streets of Romania. And this is her getting on the dog bus to come to me. Check this out.
Hello. We are here in the village. We have travel day today. The Seriously Happy bus has arrived. And the first doggy going on the happy bus is Lovely. She is lovely. Lovely has been sponsored by Lenk. Thank you so much, and will be adopted by Sonia. Thank you so much for adopting this cute, sweet pup, and for sponsoring her. This is really helpful. That enables us to take more doggies, save more doggies, and this is what it's all about. So, Lovely traveling today. Kisses. She's traveling with all of her siblings, so that's amazing. Thank you.
I love that dog. She, like, in the first year, I would regularly shut myself in my bedroom and just cry because she was just so feral. And it's been a really insane journey. I love her so much, people. I absolutely love her and adore her. And we're so fortunate because we also have her dog whisperer, Walker Jason, who I also adore and who she adores, Daddy. He's absolute daddy to her. She absolutely adores him. She is gorgeous, Emma. I love her to bits. And she had a hard start in life and she still gets triggered by certain things, bless her. But she's come around a lot. A dog is for life, not just for Christmas. Indeed, Robert. 4 years ago today. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. This has been a busy week. I also did a recording with Andrew Gold, podcaster Andrew Gold. And that will be coming out shortly. And that was fascinating. Yes, I did, Cara. I took in a Romanian dog because I couldn't actually adopt in the UK. Second time running. The first time around, we tried about 15 years ago now, and then we couldn't adopt. There's so many ridiculous rules and stipulations, and we should have ticked every box, and yet somehow we didn't. And so we ended up buying our first dog, my lovely Bliss, my Westie, and then we tried again a second time and couldn't, and ended up having to adopt from abroad. Deborah says Lucy Letby is innocent. Randy says a parrot is for life. Talking about which, Randy has also been sending in pet pictures. Let's have a look at Randy's pet pictures, shall we? Here we go. Randy's pet pictures. There's Adam, his parrot, because I did say, could you please send us a clearer picture? Ah, Saswan, really? Saswan's dog passed in June. I miss her so much. I still cry about my Blissy, who died January 2020. I still miss her. I love him so much. Yes, Randy's horse. Wait, Randy, Princessa, the Princessa pony, and Adam, the parrot. Yes, Shalini, that's Randy in the comments. Yes, Cara, Romanian dogs absolutely do demand more work and attention. Absolutely. My dog is a part Romanian shepherd, so she's also a guard dog. So, I mean, really, everything happens for a reason, right? Initially, I was like, I can't control this dog, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is that dog is such incredible protection. I feel so safe with her. And there are reasons at times why I don't always, or haven't always felt safe. But that dog, she sorts me out good and proper. So, Randy, thank you for sending in your pictures. We love them. We love them. Tomorrow, of course, is the winter solstice. Well, in the UK. And we're the Northern Hemisphere, aren't we? It's a time of expansion, open to higher dimensions. It's the winter solstice is the day of the year with the fewest hours of daylight. In the Northern Hemisphere, rather. Yes, this date falls generally around December the 21st every year. It's said to be so powerful. I think all solstices are powerful and have the ability to create change. But there's something really magic about it, which is why I invited somebody that I really adore onto the show, who's going to be talking with me about it, because, yeah, that's what we like. And Matt, competition winner Matt, received the mug, said, good evening, Sonia. Thank you so much for my lovely mug. I swear the tea tastes better in it. Here's to you, Matt. Have an amazing Christmas and a well-earned rest. I'm so looking forward to it. So Monday is our last live show for a week. And then next Friday, of course, is the pre-recorded show. And right, what do we want to talk about? What should we start with first? I want to start with this, actually. And I think there's hypocrisy on all sides about this. Look at this imagery. So if we want to be different to those who have so royally messed up, then we have to have better morals, right? That's kind of my understanding of it. And that includes calling out situations that are unacceptable, whether or not we support the person doing it. That's how I feel. And I ask this because I currently see hypocrisy on all sides. Let me ask you this question. What is the difference between Keir Starmer doing business with Larry Fink and Bill Gates and Nigel Farage accepting massive donations from Elon Musk, now being referred to as the world's richest man? In my opinion, absolutely nothing. This is the UK. We should not be having foreign interference from anywhere, be that America, South Africa, or Israel. This is the problem. Our politicians, and yes, even the ones you like, they care more about foreign territories than they do their own. So, no, Starmer absolutely should not be in bed with Gates and Fink, any more than Farage should be in bed with Musk and Trump. Our politicians, frankly, are the biggest busted flush around. Although one man, although I can't find his comment now, let me see if I could just hold on a second, because he made a good comment on social media. Let me just see. I hope you can all see me on that. And that was, he said, Gates is about stopping you doing stuff. Let's see. He said, Gates is about stopping you doing stuff, forcing you to do what you're told. Musk, at least, appears to be letting you do what you want. The former wants companies control. The latter wants a delightful chaos, possibly. That's P39 on social media. I don't know if I agree with that, but the great thing about being around here is you can have a different viewpoint and it's still all right. Yeah, it's still all right. So I don't think there's a great deal of difference about either that imagery or the people involved. Or politically corrupt sycophants, says Lisa. Lemsip, what are you saying there? My best ever pet, Chirpy, died in February 2020. I was into caged birds, but she won me round. She belonged to a friend, and within 2 weeks after taking her in, I was attached to her. Lovely. Hello, Sally Ann. Good morning. Been listening in the background to the chat. Or political. Oh, no, we've already read you, Lisa, because it just strikes a chord. Why has Kamala Harris cancelled her visit to California and been rushed back to the White House? MT70 wants to know. Lyra says, sounds bonkers, but Musk probably isn't fully human-controlled opposition. Well, we shall see. We shall see, kids. We shall see. I just think we need to be more balanced. And that is, if we're going to criticize people for interference on the other side, then we have to be prepared to look at our side. By the way, I'm not on any side. I am politically homeless, and I would say politically neutral. And when people do good, they do good. And when they do bad, they do bad. That's where I stand, literally that simple. And BBC, of course, is facing mounting pressure to play the Christmas #1 contender that mocks Sir Keir Starmer's winter fuel cuts. I'm sure I've got a little bit of a blast of it here. Let's bring it on, shall we? Here it is. Yes, let's bring it on.
What can I do without fuel? I've got no place to go. It'll be freezing this Christmas.
This song, of course, parodies PM's hate decision to scrap winter fuel payments. It is actually at #1, I believe, in the iTunes. Artist behind it is a freelance writer, Chris Middleton, and Rat Pat tribute singer Dean Ager. And good for them, frankly. Good for them.
Ho, ho, ho!
That's not supposed to happen. What's going on? That's not supposed to happen. And it's actually a really powerful song. It's obviously based on Mud's "Lonely This Christmas," and no, it's not a fantastic piece of art or anything like that. But in its own way, it is. It's social commentary. Anyway, the BBC are doing everything they can not to play it, which is absolutely wrong. A BBC spokesman insisted that DJ decisions are always made with the relevant audiences and context in mind. Well, I would say that the audience of that is an audience who have sent it to #1 in the online charts. So they should be playing it. They should be playing it. What do you think, gang? Do you think they should be playing it? I do. It's great, that song. Let's play it. Ho, ho, ho. Music is a great way of getting a message across. It is, Peter. As funny as it is, it turns the situation into a joke. So people pay no mind to the elderly freezing, says Reba. Interesting viewpoint. As I get that. I really do. Now, before we welcome in our first guests at 9:30, this poor child, let down every which way by her own family, by the services and authorities that should have taken care of her. Sentencing this week, personally, I found it absolutely unbearable to hear details of the brutality visited on this poor child, Sara Sharif. She was found in her Surrey home, having been killed by her father, who ran off to Pakistan with Sarah's stepmother and uncle after they had subjected her to extensive abuse, which lasted absolutely years. Have a look at the monsters. These are the monsters. Hope they're getting a good welcome in prison. A good traditional prison welcome. Even convicts don't like child abusers. Oh no, they don't. This poor child suffered so much at the hands of these people. I just can't recount the details. It's too much. When it came to custody, Sarah's Polish mother had been accused of child abuse, but a family court judge gave Sarah to her father, who was also accused of abuse. That decision is subject to a great deal of controversy, as the sentencing judge chose to deny the public the right to know the identity of the family court judge who made the decision to give Sarah to a man with a record of domestic violence and abuse, proven. This week, the father and stepmother were sentenced on Tuesday to life in prison for her murder. Irfan Sharif, Benash Batul were convicted of murder. Prosecutors called it a campaign of abuse, and it's horrendous. The girl's uncle, Faisal Malik, was found guilty of causing or allowing the girl's death. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison. As I say, after the girl died, the three of them fled to Pakistan, where Irfan Sharif phoned UK police to say he legally punished her. And she died. You didn't legally punish her, nothing, mate. You're a brute. You are monsters. May you be looking over your shoulder every day for the rest of your lives, the rest of your miserable lives. Police in London then went to the family's home and discovered Sarah's body under a blanket in a bunk bed on August the 10th, 2023. The three returned to Britain more than a month after they fled and were arrested on suspicion of murder. And as I said, they were convicted this week. And here's where it gets even more ugly, as if it wasn't bad enough what was done to this child. And by the way, can I say, when I first of all saw this picture, I looked at it and I said, something's wrong there. This is a child who is perfectly made up to look like an adult. Something wrong there. Poor girl, rest in peace, Sarah. You deserve so much more than you were given in your short life. And this is where it truly, truly starts to get ugly, because this is where this child is almost re-abused over again. Because I see all different state agendas being realised at the moment. And as I said at the top of the show, it's painful to keep being proven right. Currently, this unconscionable Labour government are using the murder of Sarah at the hands of her family. And they're using it to push through the Children's Welfare Bill. I read it. They make it sound as if it's been the Wild West out here regarding schooling and home education. That is simply not true. We do not need more laws. Yes, safeguards are important, and the safeguards and the laws that are in place should be used more effectively because they're being failed and children are being failed. But we don't need more laws. With all respect, these globalist shield parasites couldn't give us stuff about children. They want control. They want control. They use the expression, we cannot allow children to slip through cracks, but many children have suffered abuse in schools because this is what they're after now. Home-educated children. Home-educated children. Now, this is not the first time. When my daughter left primary school, she's now 27, so a significant period of time ago, she was home-educated for about 3 years. I gave her the choice all throughout school, you can be home-educated. And after primary school, she chose to be for 3 years. And during that period of time, Ed Balls, who is now on Good Morning Britain, was a Labour Minister for Education. And he tried to put the squeeze on home-educated parents then. And the reason why is because the state has long sought to parent our children. And so they use really awful, horrendous stories like this to try and push that further. And in fact, it's really interesting because Rachel D'Souza, who is the Children's Commissioner for England, said in a statement after the trial, we have been here before and each time we've said never again. And Sarah and Rachel rather is using this to push this new welfare bill. It's horrendous. But the thing is that there were concerns raised over Sarah. So what had happened is she was at school originally, and then the beatings and the brutalization became so repeated that putting a hijab on the poor child wasn't enough to cover them. So they took her out of school. But the council raised concerns about Sarah. So did the school. So the bottom line is, what were child services doing? They weren't doing enough. That's what I'm saying, is that the laws are already in place. We don't need any more. We just need people to be doing their jobs better. And the father, you know, as I say, he took her out of school to hide what was going on. The prosecution said the violence became so normalized that no one reacted when she appeared with bruises at a family barbecue. I mean, all of these people in my mind are culpable. If you see a child who's full of bruises and you know what it's like, if you're all getting together at a family barbecue, people are already chattering, already gossiping. Oh, no, he did this, she did this. People would have known. I don't care. They would have known. It is absolutely disgusting and despicable what this unconscionable Labour government are trying to do. And it is the Children's Wellbeing and Scores Bill. It's intended to affect school education and teacher training, pay and conditions. They're talking about a strengthened curriculum for all. But haven't we already got that? It's all the same mind-numbing dross that was designed very long ago to stop the factories, because children in public schools in the UK, public schools are different in the UK to what they call public schools in the US. And public schools in the UK are funded by the taxpayer. And It's absolute mind-numbing, the curriculum. It was designed to stock the factories because they believe that, we're all a bunch of plebs who go to those schools. Sail Away says social workers are a tier below the police in our indoctrinated society. Julie says gaslighting those of us who do homeschool to take the blame away from the state makes me sick. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. And this bill also calls for flexibility to act on failing schools. They already have all of this. They're dressing it up, and all they seek is absolute overreach and more control of our children. Look into the children who are pushing to stop homeschooling, says Linda. Do you mean look into the adults? More and more are homeschooling, and they don't want that. They want program kids. That's exactly what it is about. And also what they're going to be doing, this sounds creepy, not at all like central digitalization. They're going to be issuing children with a single unique identifying number. What was that program that used to say you're more than a number? Not in Starmer's Britain, you're not. So we shall see. We shall see how that all develops. Yes, we shall. Rest in peace, Sarah. As I say, you deserve so much more. So much more. There's still quite a lot of news that I wanted to cover before I bring in our first guest, including the magnificent Giselle Pelicot. I wonder if I have time. No, one of our guests is already with us. So I'm not going to. But what I'm going to do, he's waving at me from the studio. Hello there, Steve. And what I'm going to do is, before I bring in our next guest, I'm going to play you this. So this is grand. So basically, I don't want to. Why am I saying basically, people? Why do I keep saying basically? Stop me now. I want to find this for our first guest, and our first guest will include Darren Nesbitt from the Light newspaper. He's been on with us before, of course. Steve James, former firefighter who stood up to tyranny. And they've got together, and they will be premiering on Sunday, the 29th of December. And they'll correct me if I'm wrong. Their new film, An Ode to the New World Order. Let's have a little blast before we bring them in, okay? Let's have a little blast.
Play with your mind ever since you opened your eyes. Don't you know you're hypnotized into seeing what they want you to see? Do you know who you really are? Or what you want? What you even doing here in this time and place? Why the hell's the human race?
This is a scamdemic, and this lockdown is absolutely it's anti-humane.
My name's Darren Nesbitt.
Houston, we're going to launch.
The whole game is waking people up. The whole game is getting information to people that they're simply not getting.
Oh, there you go. And before we bring in Darren and Steve, because we're just waiting for Darren, because I played that slightly early, I want to see where Marie wakes up with Wake Up. Lovely, lovely Marie. Hello, Marie. Hello, lovely Marie. She says, thanks for all you do. We are just the faithful soldiers. You are wonderful, Marie. Excited to be heading to Morocco, where I will be tuning in as normal. And Maria sent us pictures. The top pictures is Marie at home, where she watches Wake Up. You can see all her Christmas decks. And the bottom is where she's in Morocco. She's in Morocco. And lovely to see you. Lovely to see these pictures, Marie. Says, here's where I am watching from now. My family think I'm crazy. But so what, Marie? Join the club. I blasted COVID on the plane and no face masks were worn. I've made touch and coughing normal again. Thanks to you and your team, my life has changed for the better. And here I am in sunny Marrakesh having a grand time. Love you. And I love you too, Marie. And thank you for being here with us and showing us your imagery. We absolutely adore it. Yes, we do. We adore it. Nice place, Marie. You're going to get ruffles in the field if there are any falsehoods. Everyone knows that. I would like to visit Morocco, says Randy. Well, wouldn't we all? Find it so painful seeing the COVID era again. Stephen, I think that is what is actually important about Steve's film, is because we cannot afford to forget. Obviously, on YouTube, we have to be incredibly careful what we're saying. And both my guests know this. But we cannot forget what's taken place and who were behind it and what they tried to make us do. And London Lady is intending to drive the camper van to Morocco next year. Love it. We love it. This is what's in a hype? What's in a hype talking about? In a hype, go away, sit down. We got a troll, kids. We got a troll. Just been to Marrakesh. Amazing trip. Amazing trip indeed. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in, let's see what we've got. Let's see what we've got. Let's take Marie off. I'm going to bring in Steve and we'll bring in Dan. Dan, we're going to bring in Darren whenever he arrives. Good morning, Steve. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Sonia.
Lovely to have you with us. We just had a little blast of your film, which I played a little bit prematurely. So I thought, you know what, let's bring you in and we start the conversation and Darren can join us when Darren joins us. And it's so wonderful to see that. Steve, I have to say, first of all, it's a professional film, but you are not formally or professionally trained, are you?
Absolutely not. No formal training whatsoever. I started filming the protests. We were part of a group in Stockport that started Rebels on Roundabouts, and I thought we have to document this. So I just started with a mobile phone. Then I went to the protests in London, in Manchester. I upgraded to like a handheld camera with a gimbal, and I just started putting together a story of the day, and people seemed to enjoy it. And I set up a YouTube channel, and it literally just went from there. I had no idea that, 4 years down the line, I'd end up making a documentary film.
So before Daz joins us, tell us what you were doing before. You were a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
What went so badly wrong there? I presume you loved your job.
Yeah, I mean, it was always great helping the public when we could. And during the start of the COVID era, which I call it, I could see we were one of the public institutions what people trust. And they decided to use us as part of their propaganda. So it went a little bit like this, Sonia. We were on the fire station, we were sat eating together, training together in the same room. Soon as we went out in view of the public, we got on the fire engine and they told us we have to put face masks on when we go out in the public to protect each other. And I'm like, come on, guys, it's absolute, this is nonsense. How's that going to help? How are we protecting each other when we're just sat next to each other in the station? So this was the last time I ever worked for the fire service. Okay, I told my boss prior to this that I will not wear a face mask. And the emergency alarm, the bells went off in the fire station. I was the driver of the fire engine that day. They call fire engines pumps. So I rushed to the pump. I was there ready to drive. And the officer in charge stood next to me. He didn't get on. He normally sits in the front seat. And he said, put your face mask on, Steve. And I said, I've told you I'm not going to do it now. Get on. We've got an emergency call to go to. He said, he asked me, was you going to ask a question then?
No, go for it. Carry on.
Oh, sorry. So he asked me one more time and I said no. So instead of answering the emergency call, he turned around, he went to the telephone, he rang up the control center and he said, you need to send another fire engine to this job because firefighter Steve James isn't going to wear a face mask.
How did that feel? That's like it's targeting. It's ostracizing you straight away. How does that feel? Good man, Steve says hoax. How does that feel, though?
Well, initially it was like, oh my God, you're more interested in following orders than you are protecting the public. But that if it was to look after each other, if it was to keep each other safe, then we would be doing it all the time. But it was like, oh my God, can you not just stand up and be a man and, just tell them that this is tyranny, this is out of order. We're here to help the public, but nobody else stood up in the fire station. Nobody else stood up. And in fact, the whole of Greater Manchester Fire Service, which was about 1,300 serving firefighters, there was just me and my other good friend who worked at another fire station, Pete Gilbertson. He stood up as well. And the two of us were the only ones that said no.
It's awful because the problem is that there was probably many more who actually agreed with you, Steve, but people are so scared, aren't they? And that's how they had us over not us, but us as a collective. But that's how they had people over a barrel, wasn't it? And also, but was it kind of? I mean, again, we have to be careful with YouTube. Did they bring in any idea of like mandatory jabs or anything in the fire service?
Well, that was my concern. It didn't happen in the UK, but I thought my line in the sand was wearing the mask. So that was my line in the sand. You know, I wasn't going to do that. But if it did come to that, I'm sure it did in other countries. It did definitely in Hawaii, because I was watching all. You know, we were all really eyes on social media, what's going on around the world. And I was seeing videos from literally firefighters in tears saying, I'm going to lose my job if I get forced to do this. And certain places in America, New York, Hawaii, definitely in Australia, you know, there was mandatory jabs for the public services. It didn't quite happen over here, but I actually, I emailed the chief fire officer in Greater Manchester, and told him that my line in the sand is the mask, but you know what you're going to do when you bring in mandatory injections for the rest of the staff. And he said, are you some kind of conspiracy theorist?
I mean, it's like, well, yeah, I am, because there's a conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I've got a funny, I wonder if Darren's having problems with the link because he's not shown up. But anyway, just as well, I brought you in, eh? Let's just carry on talking, okay? So the film, it has the premiere. Is it on the 29th?
Yes, I was trying. We all know that YouTube works on algorithms. If anybody's got a YouTube channel, you want to try and release a video where it's going to get maximum views. And the more people that view it at a certain time, and the more people that interact, give it a thumbs up, comment or share it, then it seeds it on other people's feed. So I'm thinking, when's the best time to do this? And we thought there's that weird period between Christmas and New Year where people are still not at work and they're twiddling the thumbs. And I thought Sunday evening, the 29th of December, the day before New Year's Eve, the day before New Year's Eve. So I thought, yes, 7 p.m. Let's put it out there. And thank you for having us on so that we can speak to all your guests, and hopefully they'll tune in and they'll watch it, and we'll, you know, more people, YouTube will seed this on people's feeds and more people can watch it.
Not at all. Absolutely welcome, Steve. We have to stick together, don't we? Now, as you say, it's set in the backdrop of the COVID era. It includes live performances, behind the scenes footage, and honest personal interviews with the band members. The band members being whom?
Okay, so Darren's the lead singer and songwriter. The drummer is a guy called Phil Escott. The bass player at the time was Gary Ferguson. He's actually left the band and been replaced by a guy called Woody. There was also a lead guitarist called Kurt James. He's left. And the sound engineer and lighting engineer at the beginning of the tour then went on to become the lead guitarist, and he's called Farage.
And is it Farage who says that he's been accused of being far right? Is that Farage?
Yes, Farage. So his parents came over during the Windrush, and he's South Indian. You know, if you imagine a far right character, you would never imagine Sarai to be that. But because of he speaks his mind, he speaks his truth, he speaks the truth, and for what he says, and it's a really brilliant interview with Farage in the film. He talks about growing up in East London. He talks about his experiences of racism. He then talks about open borders and what the community has gone from, you know, back in like the 70s and 80s, I think, when he was growing up, to what it's like now. He talks about all that, and because of that, he says, you know, the new left saviors that are in government, and people like Rishi Sunak, they were the most racist people at the time. You know, the racism between the ethnic minorities. He said very little racism came from, you know, white people when he was growing up. It was the other ethnic minorities that called it. So he's far right now for calling that out.
Outrageous. Look who we have. We have Darren Nesbitt on the screen. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning. How you doing?
To have you with us. Really good. We've seen a clip of the film, which is absolutely great. You on stage in your element. And we're just talking about the background to it and, you know, what happened with Steve in the fire service. So was it Steve who approached you about doing this film, Darren?
Yes, it actually was. It wasn't actually a film either. He was just going to document the Daz band tour that we went on during 2023 to raise the vibration and bring truth rock and roll around the country. So that's what it was. That's what it started out as, just a film document of what we were doing, everything that went into it. But as he started interviewing the band, I think the idea started forming in Steve's head. This could be a lot bigger than just a band documentary. We can turn it into a story about what's been happening since 2020 and a lot of people can relate to. And he's done a fantastic job. This is a guy who I met at Barton Moss at the anti-fracking campaign down in Salford. I just known him as Steve the Fireman. And he's now, I'll be honest with you, he's now making himself an accomplished filmmaker, film documentary.
100%. I didn't realise you were both at Barton Moss. I came to Barton Moss. Were you there when I came?
Yes, I said hello to you very, very briefly.
Oh, okay. Sorry. That was a long time ago. Oh my God, that was a very long
time ago. You were very busy. I didn't have such a handsome beard at the time.
Okay, and it is a fabulous beard, Darren. No doubt about it at all. So obviously one of the key things, well, not one of the key, but I think in its own way it's key because it actually tells us a lot, is the inclusion of Mariana Spring. Now, Mariana Spring, of course, is known to us as the BBC's disinformation reporter, and she generates rather a lot of dis and misinformation herself, never looks at what's going on with the BBC. And obviously, I've interviewed you about her before, Darren, but for the benefit of those who aren't familiar, would you like to both, either one of you, pick up why Mariana Spring is in this film?
Go for it, Daz.
Mariana Spring, she famously chased down Richard D. Hall, and he's a very private person. He's an investigative journalist. He didn't want to be interviewed, and they still did a hatchet job on him. So they came for us, and there was the endless emails, text messages on every single account you could possibly find with your name when you're getting an email. And I thought, well, look, they're going to do a hit piece anyway on us. They're going to say the light is violent and anti-Semitic and all the rest of it. Because we're anti-establishment, we want to show people what's going on. So why not take the advantage and interview her at the same time, and actually show a normal bloke trying to have a conversation with a BBC presenter about the strange anomalies of the world. And she played her part brilliantly. A lot of people said, you have the patience of Job there. And even looking back now, I'm like, and again, to be honest with you, that's kind of my first partnership with Steve. And he was absolutely brilliant. He was, again, we asked him to come and do the filming, but he did a lot more than that as well. Got some great footage, understands what's going on, and the more of us there are, look, everybody should be doing something and do something that's fun to you.
Yeah, exactly. But you snookered her. That was the reality, because you both actually caught her in a lie, and the lie being that you, to paraphrase you said, look, your line of questioning is really about kind of, the light being violent, about us promoting violence. So she's like, no, it's really varied. It's not going to be like that. And of course, then the piece came out, and I think it actually had about violence in the headline. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the conspiracy newspaper that shares violence and hate. And we actually document this actual point that we're talking about. It's part of the documentary. I thought it was really important to keep it in. So you will see that, along with some historic footage from Barton Moss as well, Sonia. So it might take you a trip down memory lane as well.
Oh, well, I really do look forward to that. The thing is that was absolutely brilliant catching her in that, because you revealed her for exactly what she is. And that is, obviously, we know that she's a shill of the media establishment. We absolutely know that. I made a gatekeeper video about her. I think her placement at the BBC is highly questionable. I do believe she was placed there. She had no great experience other than kind of working in Russia for a period of time. She came through the actual traditional spy route of Oxford, kind of, of Oxbridge and everything. Not suggesting that she's a spy, of course, although in my Gatekeeper documentary, I allow for that possibility. So tell us other things about the film that you think is important. Well, actually, let me, and that is, you do cover issues such as Agenda 2030. Right, Steve, pick that up. The importance of covering Agenda 2030, seeing as media never do.
Yeah, well, we actually bring that in towards the end of the video. I mean, Darren sings the "We Are the 99% song, and that song was written during the Bart and Moss period, but the lyrics have been changed all the time. And during the final maybe 10 minutes of the video, we've got live on stage the Daz band at the Stand in the Light Festival, and I overlay that with lots of things that they're trying to bring in from Agenda 2030. And I think they want us to forget about stuff like that. But we all saw the was it the 8 predictions for 2030? So
right.
We overlaid some of them. And I think a lot
talking about the UN.
Yeah.
Yes, 17. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's the Sustainable Development Goals. So we bring that into it. But I would say about halfway through the film as well, I also show some historic footage of the creation of the United Nations, and it's the United Nations that have brought in these Sustainable Development Goals. They tried to bring in the Millennium Development Goals before that. They had 12 goals, but they failed. So they've then moved on to these Sustainable Development Goals. And what they've done is they've partnershiped with the World Economic Forum, and they did that in 2019 to push forward these Sustainable Development Goals, and they did that right prior to the COVID era. So anybody that can join the dots, you know that it's all part of it, and we cover all that within the documentary. So like I say, it's more than just a document of what the band was doing, but the band's lyrics are all about that. And I've tried my best to tie it all in together within this 1 hour, 20-minute feature-length documentary. Which ends really upbeat as well. It starts at the dark days of COVID, and it ends with everybody getting together, the freedom community, all having a great time in a marquee in the Lake District. And that's going to happen again in 2025. So get your tickets.
Got ya. It's kind of a visual version of the Light newspaper in its own right, isn't it? In some respects, because of the stuff that you cover is the same stuff that you cover, isn't it, Daz? Let me give you some examples like global elite, racism, immigration, COVID-19, digital censorship, fracking, moon landings, flat earth, etc., etc. So it's almost like an odyssey in its own right, isn't it? It's like an opus, really. Darren, how does it feel to see yourself in such a way up there on the screen?
I'm kind of used to it now after 10 years of singing the 99% song, which kind of has got me as notorious, I suppose, and people know me in the movement for that song, and obviously all the things I've done since. The Light paper is, I think, a lot more toned down than my lyrics and me, I suppose, because the whole point of that paper, although it's great for activists to read, we put some great information. I've got some great writers, but the idea is it's for people who are just kind of curious. They're not really aware yet. They're still used to the mainstream media. They've just been handed a paper, and I think every single month, what information can we put in there, and how can we present it that is best going to get somebody to go, what?
It's accessible. And the thing is it must be successful in its own right, because otherwise you wouldn't have had the full force of the BBC coming after you. That is the reality. Nobody breaks into an empty house. Okay.
Yeah, you also run the risk of being called controlled opposition. It's like, well, it's too good, it's too professional. It's like, thanks a lot. Cheers.
The thing is that the people who call us controlled opposition are almost, for the most part, people who aren't actually doing anything. They're just sat there behind their keyboards. They don't actually know how the world functions on a very real level. I think it's harder to be controlled opposition than people realize. It's not enough just to be, to make a podcast or whatever. You have to go through all manner of checks and balances in order to be one of theirs. And I've never considered you one of them. So moving on, the future, is the future brighter, guys? Because here's the thing. I think 2024 has been a tremendous year. It's like we are now seeing the establishment properly crumbling. There was the media establishment, all the revelations to do with like Hugh Edwards. He was the media establishment, the man chosen to narrate about the coronation and to say that the Queen had died. You don't get a higher media establishment than that. And then, of course, you have all the religious establishment that's crumbling following all the revelations of John Smythe and the fact that the Archbishop of Canterbury did nothing. Then you have the music establishment that is crumbling with like P. Diddy and Jay-Z. So I see real great hope. I met the astrologer Jonathan Caner about 10 years ago before he died, and he said to me that in the future we will be able to clearly see the corruption. It will become so transparent that we will finally be given the opportunity to do something about that. Does that resonate with any of you?
Yeah, but I think it's part of the plan as well, Sonia. The idea is the original idea of the people who run the world was to destroy all governments, all monarchies, all churches, every established thing that people, 250 years ago, everything that builds up society, all the firm foundations, and the idea is to take it all away. So at some point, they're going to take away the final few governments, monarchies, religions, and it's going to be, the idea is that they're all absolutely, disrespected, and the public hate them. Politicians, you name it, and they're going to replace it with direct CBDC New World Order. The digital tyranny, directly elected mayors, 15-minute cities. Everything will be on its head, but none of this is going to happen before you get the biggest financial meltdown that we've ever had. Have them all together, and then people will obviously go, "Oh my God, my whole world's in turns upside down." I'll guarantee 90% of the people watching this will go, "That financial plug goes, I might lose 10p or something." You know what I mean, or very, very little. I'm sure.
I hear what you're saying, and actually this was raised up to me last week when I did a talk in Scotland, and a lady said to me, but because I do want to crash the establishment, I believe it's absolutely worthless, and I believe it serves only the kind of elitist parasites. But here's the thing, is I believe that it actually offers us a chance to do something completely different, because some people, when you go abolish the monarchy, they go, no, because I don't want a presidential situation. But why does it have to be either or? It doesn't have to be just because we crash the establishment that we then rush in the one world government, right? If we're at the point where we're crashing the establishment, I believe that awareness is becoming so acute now, Darren, that it is possible for us to all properly come together and challenge them properly. Steve, am I mad, or do you think there's a possibility for that?
I think there is, and their whole narrative is crumbling. And like Darren says, the whole game is waking people up. And we are the media now. Part of having a YouTube channel, or part of having whatever social media channel, it's our way of waking the people up. And the media is not just talking about the news. The media is making documentaries like this and getting the message across to people that simply aren't getting that information. So I don't think you're mad at all, Sonia. What Darren is saying is, if they get that CBDC in place, it's almost game over, and so it's a race against time to wake people up. So we can affect change, but we've got to be doing it now, and that's part of what Darren's doing with the paper. That's part of what I'm doing with this documentary and with my YouTube channel. It's just trying to reach different audiences, in different creative ways, and we can all do it. We are the media.
We are indeed. Then your YouTube channel is Edge of the Matrix. I've already put a link, I believe, in the description to the the trailer, and it's called An Ode to the New World Order, the Daz Band documentary. Guys, give us both some words before you leave us this morning. Darren.
Go watch it. Go press the button to get notified. It's a really great documentary to watch. If you've got any interest in politics of the last 4 or 5 years, and you like good rock and roll music, go see it. Obviously, subscribe, order, support the light paper. We get the truth out to everybody every single month. And yeah, get your memberships to Stand in the Light Festival. There's like a week left to get your early birds, and then it goes up double price on January the 1st. And it really is a phenomenal event. Hope you're going to come, Sonia. 4 days of truth, freedom, music.
When is it?
May 23rd to 26th.
I will note it. Somebody else had asked me about an event next year, and I said I need to get through this year first before I start planning anything for next year. I'm that person. I do like to take things a step at a time. It's like, this is what I've got to do Friday. I'll do Friday, and then what have I got to do Saturday? Probably a little bit odd in that way. Steve, give us a parting shot.
Yeah, probably. Let me just reiterate what Darren said. Watch the documentary, but we're kind of like, we're preaching to the converted on your channel, Sonia. So if there's people here that want to watch it and you're with family and friends that maybe have a different view, get them to watch the documentary. It's very entertaining. They will be entertained, and it's a good way of getting our message across to people that simply don't have this information.
Absolutely. Everybody, this is Steve James, who now actually I think can decently be called a documentary filmmaker, frankly. Absolutely. Don't be shy. Claim it. Absolutely. You did as good a job as any professional I've ever worked with. So big up yourself, Steve. And of course, it's the lovely Darren Nesbitt from the Light newspaper. Thank you both, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Take good care of yourself. Lovely to have you with us this morning.
You too. Take care, Sonia.
Take care. Awesome. Awesome, guys. Great to have you. Thank you so much. Yes. Awesome to have them with us. Still got Darren on the screen. There we go, Darren. See you later, mate. There you go. Stand in the Light was awesome. Yes, it was indeed. Daz and Steve, thanks for all you're doing, warriors, says Lisa. They cannot crush this light that you are sharing, says Rupert. I agree. I agree. Let's spread light and joy, right? Let's spread light and joy. I mean, not everything around here is light and joy, because unfortunately, a lot of news is not light and joy. But I do want to just make a comment about, let me see if I can find it. Bear with me. Bear with me. Beautiful, beautiful people. And yeah, have I got an image of this lady? Because no, I haven't actually. I'll have to bring up. Yes, I have. This is a phenomenal individual. Curly Crew said, Grand Rising family, sending love and congratulations to Giselle Pelicot in France on getting justice. All 51 men found guilty in her case. Her husband got 20 years, the brute. Sending her love. What a phenomenal individual. She waived her right to anonymity to be able to get these people. Dominique Pelicot, 72, was found guilty of all charges by a judge in Avignon, southern France, cried in court as he was sentenced to the maximum term. He was on trial with 50 other men, all of whom were found guilty of at least one charge, although their jail terms were less than the prosecutors had demanded. I don't know how you cannot get a maximum sentence when you've done to this woman what you've done. They knew what they were doing. Obviously, I can't describe in detail. We're on YouTube, but you know the case by now. It was a small circle area where these 50 men came from. It's shocking. Miss Pelicot and her children looked really emotionless as the verdicts were read out, occasionally glancing at the defendants, resting their heads against the wall. It must be absolutely shattering for her. It's shattering for us to hear, because it's so dehumanizing what they did to her. I can't believe it. She's a courageous woman, Jackie. Yeah, absolutely. Giselle is amazing. I love her, says Robert. I agree. Absolutely. This is what a hero looks like, right? Not a rock star or a pop star or an actor or an actress or a president. This is what a hero looks like, in my opinion. So big up yourself, Giselle Pelicot. You are phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I think in its own way, it's good news, because actually she stood up and she showed them that they didn't beat her. I love that. I absolutely love that. Phenomenal woman. Don't mess with Giselle. Soul Sam said, perversity comes from trauma. Trauma comes from abuse. Vicious circle. We must stop abuse and all will sort itself. Reba cannot believe how evil some humans are. She is so brave, speaking with anonymity. And I agree with you, Soul Sam. But here's the thing, is as an adult and a survivor in my own right, the buck has to stop with you. And too many people say, well, this happened to me in childhood, and so therefore I'm repeating the cycle. No. The buck has to stop with you. Once you are of a certain age, you know the decisions you're making. Cannot be any excuse for it. Not for a second do I think you are trying to excuse this man, Soul Sound. Not for a second. With men in women's spaces, as long as they wear a wig and all this abuse going on, women need a new wave of feminism, says John from Coventry. I hear you, mate. I hear you loud and clear. Dangerous says, I don't know this story, brief outline. Her husband was drugging her and then bringing in men that he found, I think, in the local area, organizing on WhatsApp for them to come and do things to her while she was drugged and asleep. Happened over a period of 10 years. That's what her husband was doing to her. Dangerous. Awful. Awful. Yes, Jack. People have to take personal responsibility. Yes, Ian, break the chain. It needs to happen. It needs to happen. So let us switch to something far more uplifting and spiritual, because it is the winter solstice tomorrow. And so on that note, I'm going to bring in somebody that I wanted to have that discussion with. Here she is, lovely Marie McLaughlin. How are you, Marie?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Sonia?
Well, I am really good. I'm so glad you've joined me. I've known you probably, I don't even know, probably for a decade now. We first met on social media. I've always loved Marie. She's just one of those people who just kind of like gracefully seems to almost float for life, float through life, almost ethereal in her own way. You're a homeopath. She says, no, that's not true. That's not how it works. You're a homeopath. You always look so well. Oh, your doggy. Hello, your doggy looks like my doggy.
I know, they're twins. There's another one.
That's insane. My doggy has been with us 4 years today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, off the doggy bus from Romania, and she smelled like crap.
Oh,
and it was just unbelievable because she'd been in this cage for like, I don't know, 24 hours or something, traveling to meet us. But it's lovely to have you with us.
Sorry.
Yes, we love them, don't we? What's your dog? Oh, you've got, how many have you got there?
Just got two. This is Oscar and that's Molly. And Molly is from Bulgaria. No, not Bulgaria. She's from Nicosia, sorry. And she was found with 10 puppies. She was a single mum and she used to be called Tiffany. And then they rescued her and she got called Molly. So she came to me in February. Her owner died of cancer, unfortunately.
Sorry to hear that. So she's been with you since February. So the thing is that, you know, I do believe that dogs grieve. They absolutely feel. They're some of the most feeling creatures that I've ever got to know, really. And we were talking about this earlier when I mentioned about my dog being with us 4 years, and I played her early video when they were literally putting her on the dog bus. And I'd lost my dog earlier that year, January 2020, my bliss bub, my little Westie, and I still grieve for her. Because her feelings are so strong in me. You know that feeling? They just kind of like, they come in and they steal your heart, don't they, these dogs?
Such a strong connection. It's so unconditional. Yeah, lovely. Well, I'm glad you got a rescue, Sonia. That's very good.
Yes, at last. So thank you for joining us at this auspicious time. Of course, it is the winter solstice tomorrow. Does that have any meaning for you, the winter solstice?
It does more and more these days. I don't do Christmas at all. I just can't get on board with that whole shopping, and it's tyranny to me. So I have actually made an announcement that I'm not doing Christmas nor cards. But the winter solstice just means that we're going back into the light. And for me, that's everything. I love the light and the longer days and the sun. So winter's always tricky. I don't really enjoy that whole walking the dogs, 5 o'clock in the evening and it's pitch black. That's not fun. So yeah, the solstice is a beautiful time. Yeah.
It is. And it also feels incredibly spiritual as well. That's the thing. It's like when I woke up this morning and I looked out and I was like, yeah. And, because obviously it's about, the movement of our life. My favorite number is 3, but I also love 4 because it's so pivotal, isn't it? It's like, the 4 seasons and there's a great stabilizing factor attached to it as well. But what I actually find around this period, much more so than the summer solstice. But this very much feels very much like a spiritual. I feel very much in touch with our ancestors, you know, where they would have, you know, gone in their caves, they would have shut themselves away for the winter, they would have stocked up. And it's really funny because one of our mods said to me earlier this week, it's odd the way we celebrate Christmas and New Year when we do, because that's not really in tune with the seasons, is it? This partying and everything. That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really not appropriate. And also the way that the months, like October, that Oct is 8, but it's the 10th month. So you know that they've done something to our calendar. It's knocked everything off its kind of axis, really. Oscar, go on your bed. Sorry, he's just being all needy now.
Oh, no, don't apologize. I love that. I love the fact that the dogs are involved. I love that. I love that.
The thing about the, you know, the progression of time and months and seasons, we have been removed from it by whoever is in control of these things, even in as much as, you know, the daylight savings thing, you know, all of it is to kind of mess with our natural organic circadian rhythms, which we need, and our bodies know what to do with that. You know, there's a little receptor inside here that goes with the light. And so for the controllers to change all of that and knock it off its axis is really, it's quite disturbing to me. So that's why I don't celebrate Christmas. I mean, I love celebrations. I love my birthday, but I don't want to do it on command by some external.
Understood. I do love all of the fanfare. I have to be honest with you. My daughter and I went to Berlin the other week to the Christmas markets, and that was absolutely brilliant. Obviously, I've got a whacking 6-foot tree in the background, and I love all of that. But to me, it's more cultural than religious. Like, I don't adhere to any kind of routine religion at all, but it's very much part of our culture. I kind of grew up in that, and I enjoy it. And I also enjoy the fact, I like the preparation of it. I like the fact that I'm going to get, you know, almost a week off to be able to just kind of, take some time. And we need some time. And it's very interesting what you say about how they've messed with us and they've taken us out of rhythm. But the thing is, they can only do it to a certain degree, can't they? Because our bodies are still in their own sync. It's like my body naturally knows when it's time to be more hoarding and to do spring cleaning and all. And I naturally do that. And that is not in line with any calendar. Do you do the same?
No, cleaning. No.
Oh.
I really can't stand the drudgery of cleaning. And I hear what you're saying, and I know people do, but I think I'm not really tuned into that. I think I was a little mum from the age of 11, looking after the house and cooking and cleaning and all of that. And so I really don't like it. I avoid it. I just do the bare minimum.
That's interesting. It's like a reverse psychology working on you, isn't it? Because I mean, presumably, you kind of associate all that with like a hardship. Is that what it is?
And it's that feeling of, oh, I never have to go to school again. Hallelujah. That kind of thing, just setting myself free from things that are sort of required of me. I really love freedom and for everyone just to do what they want and no rules. I'm a bit of an anarchist, Sonia.
So am I. And we have to stop assuming. I actually, at the talk I gave last week, I said, I want to introduce this word to you. And I don't want you to automatically think of chaos, anarchy. Because the thing is that anarchy is really just about self-determination. It's not about turning over banks and buildings and everything. That really isn't what it's about. That's the way it's been portrayed in mainstream media. And I'm all for changing what's going on, Marie. You know, you like me, you're absolutely aware of what's taken place and have been for a long period of time. And I wonder how close we are to the light, because I definitely feel we're heading towards it at rapid speed, whereas other people, they feel, oh, it's like, it's so overwhelming, the odds against us, it's so negative. But what do you feel? Where do you think we are in our kind of evolution?
No, I think we are barreling towards the light. And I think it's that feeling. There is, you know, an awful lot of horror in our faces, but there always has been. But the difference now is that people have much more awareness. And, you know, even people that, you know, love to bury their heads in the sand and be in complete denial of everything, they can actually see right now what's coming to the head. So I don't believe that we're going to have a nuclear bomb or anything like that. What I think is we're going to have a mass awakening. And I've watched it for 15 years, where at the beginning, no one knew anything. You go online and sort of look for like-minded people, and there were just a handful. And luckily, my sister was one of them, so that was great.
Thank goodness for that. Wow.
Yeah, so grateful for that. But now everyone's kind of, aware of chemtrails, aware of, the poisons in our food, those kind of things. They're all coming to the fore. So, this is supposedly the time of revelation in the Bible. I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's being orchestrated to look like it's that. But basically, that's my perception, that I'm seeing the light coming on in people, the realization of, wow, we've got to be responsible for ourselves. Sorry Oscar's crying.
Oh, Oscar Poppet.
Oh my God, he's ridiculous. But yeah, so the light,
he's telling us something. We don't know, do we?
What he's saying is, can I just come and be cuddled by you?
Yeah, Oscar, come be cuddled, Poppet. Or maybe not. I mean, I can't decide what works for you or
he's
not.
having a stretch. It's fine.
I agree with you. Now, here's the thing, is that I talked on Monday about optimistic realism, right? Because I think it's really important to be optimistic, but with your feet grounded in realism, because, and I use some analogy about, perhaps, being 22 stone and wanting to be a ballet dancer is not really going to happen. So that, as an example, is not optimistic realism. That's just delusion. But we are clearly seeing a sea change taking place. And one of the things, obviously, is the advent of the internet enabled us to see falsehoods in real time. So it's hardly a wonder that they want that from us, because it's not gone the way they intended, right? And so, and I love that. And, you're right. I also, when I was first online, and I was I remember even questioning basic stories like Madeleine McCann as one example. You couldn't question chemtrail. As soon as you did, they piled on you. You're a lunatic. Yeah. And it's completely shifted. And it's not shifted because I don't have critics. I have critics. But I think the weight of the information that we're bringing through is now almost too great, even for the critics. Yeah. And that's a wonderful time. What do you think the alternative? Because I'm all about taking down the establishment, right? And I think you have to start with abolishing the monarchy, because I don't believe that you can have equity or equality in this world when you have such a blatantly obvious disproportionate system. Would you abolish the monarchy?
Yeah, today, right now.
Me too. Let's do it. I mean, how do you think it would change? Because people automatically go, I don't want a president. And I as I said earlier to our guests, you don't automatically need to have either the monarchy or a president. There are other ways of success.
Yeah, I know they always give this kind of binary thing, like it's either this or this. Actually, no, there's a million options in between. But I mean, people do need leaders. They want leaders. I don't personally. I can't stand it. But that's human nature, to want someone to tell them what's the best direction to go in. So, I get that. But I think if we had some elders, maybe 5 or 6 elders that could just give people guidance and advice, and they weren't elevated to this ridiculous gold carriage nonsense with crowns on.
Right.
Yeah, I think to be kind of guided by elders would be the best system, I think, if you've got to have someone.
Well, no, because you're right, because the truth is not everybody is a leader, okay? Yeah. Not everybody is a leader, and some people do look for direction from other people. But the problem is even our so-called learned, wise leaders are often completely captured by these kind of, these capitalist organizations like WEF, for example, or who. They're just not us, are they? So no. But I do literally think that we are heading into much more positive times. The solstice actually just means, in its simplest terms, standing still, because obviously it's that rare moment when the sun stands still. Short day, stillness. Yeah. For many people, stillness is a key to enlightenment. People find that in solitude, in meditation. How do you find your enlightenment?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I do. To be honest, I just, well, when I was 29, I did read a book called Hidden Journey, and it was Andrew Harvey, who's an Oxford scholar, literary, brilliant man, wrote about his encounter with a guru in Germany called Mother Mirror. And when I read that book, I kept throwing the book across the bed. Like, I don't want to know this, because I knew once I'd read it, I couldn't unread it. It was going to change me forever. And it did. And I gave the book to my sister, and she went to Germany with her husband and went to see Mother Mirror. And that was it. We were just on this journey. And I shouldn't say we, I shouldn't speak for Jerry, but I was, for sure. And things would change. Like, I would have physical things manifest in the roof of the top of my head, and see things like lights, nothing dramatic where you sort of think, take me to the hospital, but just subtle things would shift in me. And so that was 30 something years ago. So I have been on a very kind of gentle spiritual journey most of my life now. And I'm really grateful for it, because I can't think of any other thing to do. I can't not have a spiritual, I can't not be spiritual.
No, I understand. You're a spiritual being having a human experience.
But I think
we all are. Yeah,
totally. But I didn't realize it until that time when I read that book.
Right.
And so I really very much see my life as a journey, and that, you know, I'll probably keep coming back many, many times, because it takes a lot to teach me a lesson. You know, I have to learn it a lot before I kind of go, oh yeah, I got that now. But yeah, life is just such a strange journey, and I don't understand most of it. And I just kind of think, well, okay, God, just show me what to do, or universe, or cosmos, or whatever you want to call it, the divine spark. I often just say, what do I do? Show me what to do. Even for my homeopathy exam, I turned the paper over to become a homeopath. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to fail. And I just said, can you do this, God? And so then God did the exam for me. That sounds so bonkers.
No, here's the thing. It doesn't sound bonkers when you're in tune. It only sounds bonkers because anything like this has been ridiculed and demonized in order to be able to take us away from our spirituality. Yeah. Because when we're in touch with our spirituality, we become incredibly powerful. Like that's what the controllers don't want. They don't want us to be powerful. So it doesn't sound bonkers to me. And because you also said, you know, I wasn't so that I was taken to hospital. But again, that's what the controllers have told us, isn't it? This whole idea that if we hear or see things, that, you know, there must be something wrong with us. No, I was raised by a medium mother. I was raised around a seance table. I absolutely know that there is other stuff going on there, and I'm proud about it. And I don't give a flying fig what anybody has to say about that, frankly. So, Marie, do you think this is all there is? Is there more when we leave this mortal coil?
Oh, so much more. So I'll just tell you, my dad, when he was a little boy in Ireland, he had terrible asthma. And so they put him in a thing called a sweat lodge, which is a dug out hole in the ground with kind of like an igloo of rocks over the top. And they would put you in there if you had an illness and you would sweat it out. But for him, they lit a thing called Potter's asthma powder, which still exists. And he was maybe 3 or 4, and he was put onto the ground with this smoke to breathe in to cure his asthma, or to alleviate his asthma. And so he grew up with a lifelong terror of being buried alive and of dying. And so when we were little, I would hear him screaming in the night. He would have nightmares. So when I was about 20, I went on this kind of journey of discovery about death and dying, and so that I could help him and say to him, it's going to be fine. You're going to love it. And so there was this one book called Closer to the Light. And it was the stories of children who had had near-death experiences. And some of them had been dead, like flatlined for half an hour. And they came back with these stories that were all pretty much the same, that what happens is you're met by some divine being who is full of love, or someone that you knew, you know, that had passed over, like a granny or whatever. And the experiences were all the same, apart from one little girl who had tried to kill herself because she was being sexually abused, and she was about 11. And so she got on a sledge and just went hurtling into a concrete bench. And so she did leave her body and was, you know, dead for a while, and was met by a divine person who told her off. They weren't very sympathetic. They said, go back and, you know, sort it out and make it change. And she did. So I was able to say to my dad, you know, like, obviously no one wants to suffer, and the sort of the process of dying can be a bit ick, But, you know, once you leave your body, it's bliss. It's absolutely wonderful. But, you know, he was Irish Catholic, and he'd, you know, probably done things that he wasn't very proud of in his life. And so he thought that he was going to be, you know, in big trouble when he died. And so that journey of reading Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and all these people, there was a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. There's some really fantastic books out there documenting how much more there is beyond this physical realm, you know, this body that we can see and touch. There's so much more.
Do you think there's a purpose to life?
I don't know. There's a DJ called Mark Devlin. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, Mark's been on the show. I know Mark well. Yeah.
He's a great thinker. He really thinks all the time. And he's talking about, at the moment, what is God and what is all this about? And he's kind of focusing a lot on the kind of the cruelty of life, how animals slaughter each other, how humans slaughter children. And so he's saying, if there's a God, a divine being who is love, why is this allowed to happen? So that is a big question mark, isn't it? But then I think that once you're outside of the body, once you're in that other realm, this seems very, like, you know, insignificant. It's like, whatever, you know, so I got killed, big deal. I think it's more like that. I think we come here for experiences, but because we're human and we have empathy and we see the suffering, we think, well, why would we choose that? But I think we probably need to choose that to have the experience, to then evolve to more and more and more enlightenment and freedom from attachment. And I think that these horrible things make us attached. And so maybe it's that, but I don't know, Sonia. God, I'd love to know.
Who knows? Who does know, though? What about reincarnation? Do you think it's possible that we return in order to rectify something?
I definitely believe in reincarnation for sure. But I don't know if it's to rectify things. And I don't know how karma, I don't think it's as literal as that. I think maybe you have one experience as the abuser, and then you have another experience as the abused, you know, just to sort of try everything. You know, Dolores Cannon, is that her name?
Yes.
She talked about that, how you just need to have every experience going. So you need to be a black person, a white person, a man, a woman, you know, everything, to accrue this experience to then evolve. Maybe. I mean, they're all just theories, but yeah, it's, you know, in homeopathy, Hahnemann talked about imponderables. So there are things that you can, like, drive yourself mad thinking about, but you will never get an answer.
Right.
And so he would park it. He would sort of park the imponderable and just get on with what he could do. And I tend to be like that more. I don't pretend to know everything. And, you know, I'm not one of these people that needs to be right all the time, although I always think I'm right.
That's why I like you, though, is because the thing is I think one of the problems that we have in this world, and it makes people so rigid, is that when they are public in any way at all, whether they're tweeting or whatever, they feel the need to not only be right, but to be rigidly right.
Yeah.
And so even in, you know, when they are subject to new information that could change how they feel, some people refuse to move from that position, whereas I can be quite flexible. If somebody comes to me with new information and it bears out, then I feel that I have, obviously as a journalist, I have an absolute duty to relay that. But I think part of the problem we have in this world is the need to be right.
Yeah,
that people have. It's okay to get it wrong.
Oh, totally. Right? Absolutely. And it's very powerful to be, you know, that's another freedom for me to just go, well, okay, I don't know. And, you know, it's lovely to find out something that shifts your perspective, you know, that gives you more of a view.
What about hell on earth, the concept of hell on earth? David said this system brings hell on earth. I believe many times that actually the whole idea of hell is on earth. You know, other people can be absolute hell. But in the same way, I allow for the fact that if there is, say, a heaven, for want of a better description, then I believe there has to be the opposite number as well, because that's the duality of the universe. And there is, you know, for every action, a reaction.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? Is it hell on earth?
It can be. You know, there's always the opportunity, even in a hellish situation, to turn it around. you know, there's always some spark. So like the yin and yang, there's, you know, in the black side, there's a bit of white, in the white side, there's a bit of black. You know, there's always the potential to see something differently, or even just go inside. And so even if everything outside is horrible, you just go inside and you know, meditate or pray or just cheer yourself up somehow, thinking of a nice story. So I don't really believe in an absolute hell. I think it's something that's been invented a long time ago to keep people controlled, you know?
Ooh, yeah.
So,
That would make a lot of sense as well, because I've always said, right, I mean, there's a lot of really wise words in the Bible as one example. In fact, in all religious texts, you can find wisdom, you know, doesn't mean that it is verbatim, but for the most part, you can always find wisdom within it. But the idea of this horrible punishing God, if you are a sinner rather, never made any sense to me.
No, not at all. Yeah, when I was 5 at school, the teacher, Miss Robinson, was saying that we had to pray for the black babies because they weren't baptized. This is in 1967. So
shocking, isn't it?
Yeah. But I just thought, you know, why, like, how is there this elitist rule that you get this bit of water on your head, bang, you're in the good graces. And if you're not, too bad, you're going to go to purgatory. I mean, it's very Catholic, all this language, but even when I was 5, I just thought, no, that's just the unfairness just doesn't gel with this idea of a loving God. So I never bought it. I never thought that was a thing. So
Daniel says hell is paying for water charges when you live in Scotland. Are they obscene, Daniel? I am in the UK, Thames Water, which is ours, absolutely outrageous. You don't get decent water. Religion invented hell. Let me get this. Religion invented hell so they can sell you salvation. That's a good point, isn't it?
Totally. And control people. But these days, there's different ways of controlling people because people are not really thinking about heaven and hell so much. They're much more grounded in this reality. So, you know, the way to control people is through shame, mostly. You know, you shame someone and they'll behave and shut up.
Yeah, shame's a good one, isn't it? Let me look at this. Egos hold us back from being able to experience all that life has to offer. So I have an ego. I have a good, strong ego, but we also, I think the whole idea of egos has kind of like been taken, hasn't it? And they've run with it. I completely get Kath's point, because when ego gets in the way of like our emotions, of our spirituality, of our understanding, like when you have to deal with a narcissist, for example, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with a narcissist, but I've had to deal with loads, and they have their egos run riot. So are they like demonic, do you reckon? People like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been watching Jerry Marzinski a lot lately, and he talks about schizophrenia as not being a chemical imbalance of the brain, but being a kind of possession, or the way he describes it is a kind of psychic parasite. And I think that the narcissism is another parasite, a psychic parasite, because they all go by the same script. It's like, well, you know, this just doesn't make sense for it to be a chemical imbalance.
Right, exactly. I studied psychology, and that was the thing that I began to understand about psychology, was that even though there are individual differences, and I absolutely believe in individual differences, we still work as a program largely, and that includes the so-called mental health illnesses as well. I agree with you. These people are parasitical. I love nothing more than swatting a narcissist these days, by the way. I get tremendous, because I spent many years trying to work out how these people can function the way they do. So now when I spot a narcissist, I love toying with them.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
They come for you though, because they're
of course they come for me. They absolutely come for me, but I'm a really good narc slayer.
Oh God, I must get, when we're not on I'll tell you about one in Ireland who is going through women at a rate of knots and destroying their lives. And it's not funny. He's just the most evil little narcissist. But he follows the playbook of the narcissist.
Absolutely. But once you know, you know.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And one of the things that absolutely you should do if you really want to destroy a narcissist is get on and have a successful life away from them, because that kills them, because they need your energy. Narcissists are empty shells. They cannot function without the fuel of other people's reaction. So if you refuse to give them a reaction, they dwindle. They essentially die, which is fabulous. Right. Let me look at this. Kennedy says, isn't it possible that duality is only a concept here on Earth? Maybe once out of our human shell, only infinite love exists. I like that idea. We hear that a lot, don't we? That infinite love is out there waiting for us.
I love the thought of that. Yeah, really lovely. Because this duality thing, it is very earthly. The binary decision, it's kind of trapping. I like there to be all the nuances, not just this or that, the black and white. I want all possibilities.
This is a good one. Gaslighting Gilligan is quoting Aldous Huxley. Maybe this world is another planet's hell. That would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? What do you think? I'm taking you in all manner of directions here, Maria. I hope you're right there. What do you think about all these lights that we keep seeing in the sky that they're telling us is drones, or they're not even altogether sure about it? Any thoughts about that?
I did a meme the other day on Facebook, which was that, I can't think of her name now, but she was a Bond villain, the sort of Russian scientist villain.
Right.
And I said, release the drones, because it's just they just cannot come up with anything new. It's always rinse and repeat. So you get a few months of respite, and then the next thing, it'll be a royal death or, a plague, or they just keep pulling out the same tropes all the time, just to keep us dancing, like kind of puppets on strings. And so when the drone thing happened, I just thought, oh, here we go again. It's just more of the same. So I don't even engage. And I mean, if it turns out to be some extra dimensional beings, then great. Let's meet them. Let's see what they've got to say. But I don't believe that for a second.
Do you believe there is life out there?
Yep, I do. But I don't think I think it's through veils. They're interdimensional beings. I don't think that there's another planet over there with the clangers on. Do you know what I mean? That we could just go visit. I think that it's all very malleable energy that, so maybe things can come into, when you see a ghost and it's like, oh, there's a ghost, and then it's gone again. I think it's that just moving through the dimensions. I'm probably
interesting. And that can also explain when you get that, that kind of thing out of the corner of your eye, you saw something, there was movement there. That could also explain it as well, couldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There's so much going on, so much.
I mean, your work, 25 years of clinical experience. And as you say, you've had the privilege from helping people from birth to death and everything in between. You must encounter some scenarios.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's such a privilege, Sonia. I get to hear people's stories, and it's mind-blowing and it's beautiful, and I'm moved to tears sometimes, and then I get to help them. It's the best job ever, and I get paid. I mean, win-win-win.
Win-win-win. But honestly, if you're one of the people that if I ever needed, you have helped me previously, and my second daughter. When I was looking for your email this morning, I came across an email where I had my second daughter, as I like to call her, Mia. Hello, Mia. She watches the show. Oh. And she's my daughter's best friend. And I think she was having some, I can't remember what she was having some issues with, and you sorted her out good and proper. And yes, you did. I think I've already put a link to your webpage in the description, and absolutely recommend anybody getting in touch with lovely Marie McLaughlin if you need homeopathy and so much more. Marie, before you leave us, give us a parting shot about the winter solstice.
A parting shot. Well, I don't know if this winter's not been that wintry at all. It's been really mild, and things are growing when they shouldn't be growing. They're kind of a bit out of season. But I think that we deserve to rest. And so, like bears in a cave, we should retreat and have a rest and allow ourselves to regenerate. That's what this time is for.
Just like our forebears did. And there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you so much for being with us. You've got everybody chatting away. We love some spiritual chat around here. It's so important. We deal with so much kind of like hard news and the really bad things that are happening in the world. We need to be able to reach for something more. And you've helped us access that this morning. So thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. Hope says, cheers, Marie. Absolutely. Happy. Oh, you're not going to celebrate Christmas. Well, happy whatever to you, my love. Everybody, this is Marie McLaughlin. She's a wonderful individual. Thank you so much. Love this guest, says the Blue Nomad. Indeed. Lovely Marie McLaughlin. Link in the description below, peeps. You can find her. Take good care of yourself, Marie. Lovely to see you, sweetie. Take care. Lovely. Isn't she lovely? Yes, that's why I invited her, peeps, because she's lovely. She's lovely. Thank you, Marie. Yes, she's lovely. Bye, Marie. We definitely. What's that? Milford, I'd love that. What's happening now? Listen, there's a conversation going on about how they don't pay for water in Scotland. We don't pay for water in the UK. They can't charge you for water. What they can charge you for is the facilitation of the water, right? So the cleaning and the transferring of the water from there to there, but they can't charge you for the water, and they certainly can't if you're Thames Water. They've made absolute millions in profit, and the water is terrible. Absolutely terrible. What's that? I forgot about Christmas, says Ian. How can you forget about Christmas, Ian? I'm sat here in a red jumper with a Christmas tree in the background. Randy says ego is a matter of which mirror you want to reflect yourself in. There you go. There you go. Right. Let us move on. What was I going to talk to you about? Oh, 2030. There's that year again. So, bad news for eco-fascist Sadiq Khan, not only the mayor of London and the co-chair of C40 Cities, which is a global network of about 100 mayors of the world's leading cities. They are committed, they say, to using an inclusive, science-based and collaborative approach to cut their fair share of emissions in half by 2030. Well, Sadiq Khan has had a bad week in that regard. Here he is. There he is, the chair of C40 Cities. A judge has ruled in the favour of Tower Hamlets Mayor Lutfi Rahman, who had promised to abolish the failed livable streets, low traffic neighbourhoods. He had promised to abolish that scheme in his 2020 re-election manifesto. And that's what he's done. And a legal challenge against the decision to remove a set of low traffic neighbourhoods from his London borough has been struck down by the High Court this week. A judge ruled that the move was lawful. This is good news. This is not good news. This is great news. Campaigners from Save Our Streets had argued that Lutfi Rahman broke the law in the way he decided to remove 3 LTNs in September last year, but the council's lawyers accused the group of attempting an impermissible interference with democratic decision making. The great thing about this, and Sadiq Khan must be crying into his fascist cornflakes, is it could set a precedent. That's the thing. It could set a precedent. In other words, if they've been able to get rid of 3 LTN neighborhoods in London, they can do it all over the country. They can do it all over the country. Thank goodness there is at least one mayor with some integrity. He is, by the way, the leader of his own political party called Aspire. He said he welcomed the court's findings that his decision was lawful. The LTNs were introduced in 2021 by the borough's previous Labour Mayor, John Biggs. Of course it was. They include cycle lanes, pocket packs, seating areas, large planters, all the usual stuff that makes it look fabulous, but is actually designed to be little mini prisons all over our land. One of the 7 arguments made by the pro-LTN campaigners was that despite Mr. Rahman's 2022 manifesto pledge, there was still a failure to give adequate reasons at the time of him taking the decision in 2023. We all know they're bad. We all know they're bad. And who is... I don't yet know the answer to this, but I filed some FOIs because I want to know who's funding this campaign group who's railed against a mayor who's actually stood by his election manifesto. That makes a change, doesn't it? So big up yourself, Lutfi Rahman, for taking on the might of Sadiq Khan and the C40 Cities and the eco-fascists. This is good news, kids. This is good news. Wonderful stuff. Love to hear it. And I can see why this man was re-elected to mayor, because he's actually done what he'd promised his constituents that he would do. And you don't get to say that often, do you? Have a great solstice, Mary. Rest well. Who's Mary? What's going on? What have we got here? FOI might open that can of worms. We need it, kids. The royals are parasites, each and every one. Mary, absolutely. I don't know why you're saying that, but I agree with you. I agree with you. Yes, I do. What else do I want to talk about at this stage? Oh, yeah. Attorney for 3 men accusing Sean Puff Daddy Combs of assaulting them in that way that I can't use the word on YouTube. And what makes this unusual is so far all of the civil cases have been women who say they've been trafficked by him, but these are 3 men. So this is going to get interesting. Of course, he denies it. The alleged assaults took place between 2019 and 2022 at 2 Manhattan hotels. And at Diddy's East Hampton residence, all 3 men alleged their drinks were spiked. And I was listening to the attorney, Thomas Guffra, and he is, as I say, lawyer for 3 of Sean's accusers, and which is unusual that this is a different lawyer, because they've been using Tony Busby for the vast majority of the civil lawsuits. But this is very interesting. He said there was a pattern. He said he was convinced that the men were telling him the truth because independently they all told him a very similar story, and that included of being given concoctions that made them drowsy, and then they woke up and they were being violated. Yeah, Martin, you're not allowed to use that word on YouTube. I used it the other day and they demonetized me, and you can get a strikeout for that. Isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that ridiculous? Yes. Yes, it's ridiculous. And just talking about that, Jay-Z's lawyer has come out fighting, said that they need to get this dismissed now, the charges against him. Let me just go to this. I've got them in different places. I shouldn't have done. I should have kept them in the same places. Jay-Z's lawyer asked to dismiss that lawsuit after the accuser's interview amid severe legal misconduct. I don't think people yet understand the power of Jay-Z in Hollywood, right? He is a very powerful front man to a lot of elitist parasites. That is the reality. And so Jay-Z's lawyers have cited a recent television interview with Jay-Z's accuser. The filing was filed on Wednesday, and said when pressed by NBC, who was interviewing Jay-Z's accuser, the accused was forced to admit, I have made some mistakes. I may have made a mistake in identifying. You have to know that when it comes to something like this, the lawyers are going to leap on that. Why are these people, when they're filing lawsuits, then giving interviews? It's ridiculous. It lessens it. It lessens it. Is it Google that owns YouTube? Yes, Kevin. But the things that are said to change, hopefully, they're saying that there will be changes on YouTube and in terms of the censorship when Trump gets in. But I'll see it when I believe it, frankly. So we shall see. But Jay-Z throughout all of this has been absolutely proactive. He's not happy. And he feels that the allegations are absolutely false. It's wrong. Tony Busby, who is representing this accuser, has said the allegations against the accuser are flat out false. And we shall see, really. There's a lot of money at stake here. I'm not convinced, I'll be frank with you. I don't think it's fair that an accuser can be anonymous, whereas the person they're suing can then be hauled in front of the world's press. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. I think that in situations like this, either both should be named and identified or neither should. That's my position on that. He would say that, wouldn't he? Yes. Yes, Milford, he would, wouldn't he? Absolutely, he would. I also have to quickly address this. There's a link in the description. Lovely people, to do with a list of non-Bova dairy suppliers. Lovely Claire, who was at the UK column talk recently that I was at, has spent, let me see, I've spent almost 3 weeks contacting over 130 dairy suppliers, brands about the Bova issue. I finally got a list of 37 safe currently, brands and dairies. That's how many replied to my satisfaction. I've put all the details of the same in a database with notes, etc. After trying to figure out the best way to share this, I have used Data Wrapper to visualize my database. It's also on Substack. And as Claire points out, this exercise has been a complete minefield. For instance, I have not included Rachel's yogurt, as Rachel's were bought out by Lactalis a while ago, and Lactalis have a joint venture with Nestle, who have declared full support for methane reducing feed in their food products. It is indeed a minefield, which is why we need people like brilliant Claire to put together lists for us. So it's there in the description. If I haven't already put it, I will put it. I'm pretty sure I have, because I think I remember putting it yesterday. So good on all those farms. Just give some of them a shout out. Churncote, Chestnuts Farm, Callanwen Organic Farm, Bramble Bee Farm, Brown Cow Farm, Barclay Farm, Graham's Family Dairy, Green Cow Dairy, and more. Because people have been asking me. That's right, Reclaw. Nice one, Claire. Just giving out a warning to others now. What's that, Steffi? What's that about? They feed the cows stuff that burns your eyes out. Stephen loves yogurt. Yeah, I love yogurt too. And this is good news for anybody who has been watching the horrendous state of affairs regarding nurse Lucy Letby. Lucy Letby, of course, was convicted in August. I think it was August or September 2023, certainly 2023, at Manchester Crown Court for the deaths of 7 babies and the attempted murder of 6 babies then, and then there was one retrial, and she was convicted of that as well. And the reality is many people are standing up and saying there's something wrong with the convictions of Lucy Letby. And in 3 decades plus of being a journalist, I have never seen so many people who are prepared to put their head above the parapet and say there's something wrong here, from politicians to doctors to former doctors, nurses, statisticians, you name it. I interviewed the brilliant Professor Richard Gill for our Christmas special about it to get a big overview about Lucy Letby. But I just wanted to comment on a couple of things that are happening right now. And that is, this week, there was a press conference with Lucy Letby's new barrister, Mark MacDonald. He's now represented her 3.5 months after her last defence were absolutely useless, frankly, in my opinion. Mark MacDonald made clear that there is new evidence that the lead witness for the prosecution has changed his mind, which is Dr. Dowie Evans. Dowie Evans says, I didn't change my mind, but beg to differ there. And Mark MacDonald said that significant progress has been made. He read out 2 statements. I don't want to go into too much detail because I'll give away what the conversation with Professor Gill. But it is extremely interesting. I found it gobsmacking to watch him in action, what he had to say. And also he pointed out that Dr. Dowie Evans cannot stop giving interviews and new press releases and sound bites and media just all the time. Like, some people become completely kind of enamored in seeing themselves in media in stories like this. But he was the lead prosecution. He has changed his mind about certain things. And Mark MacDonald said there's fresh evidence relating to 2 detailed and lengthy reports regarding babies C and O not been presented before in court or as part of an examination. There's lots of people who have stepped up with Lucy's new barrister and saying that they support this. It's just horrendous. She needs releasing now, says Mrs. Pirate. And I want to state this. I cannot overstate this. This is no disrespect to the babies or the grieving parents. What people need is the truth. And it would appear, and this is not based on just my opinion, this is based on people who have gone into it in far greater detail and depth than I have. And somebody like Richard Gill is brilliant because he has previous experience of other nurses who have been accused and then were eventually acquitted. One spent 5 years inside. It's awful. I believe Lucy Letby is a scapegoat, and I believe that the parents need to know what really happened with their babies. That's my position. David says, what a lovely lady Marie is. Where can I see more of her, Sonia? I will put a link in the description to her website, David. You might be able to find out more then. That girl was set up, says Robert. I think it's fair to conclude that, frankly. But the other good news is David Davis MP has been granted approval for a January debate on Lucy Letby's conviction. An application by David Davis, the Tory MP, was granted approval yesterday with a debate listed for January the 8th. So that is really good news. Steve said, transparent miscarriage of justice, scapegoat for NHS failings. Yes, I agree. It will happen again unless the truth comes out, said Mrs. Pirate. That is the reality, my friend. That is the reality, and it's troubling. So obviously that's really troubling. Oh, the one thing I wanted to mention to you, I forgot to mention to you, to do with Arla and the Bova thing. Really interesting this, by the way, because what many people don't realize is Arla has been working with our dairy producers since at least 2009, not with Bova, that's recent. But Arla had this controversy that affected their sales. They had a 2-month-long boycott of Danish products in the Middle East in 2006. You're going to love this. If you hate Arla already, you cannot hate them enough. Listen to this, right? So basically, there was all this anger, the Muslim anger, over satirical cartoons of Prophet Muhammad that were published in Denmark. That was the initial reason for the boycott in the Middle East, because Arla is a Danish product. And then what happened was that the Danish government then refused to condemn the cartoons or meet with 11 ambassadors from Muslim nations. There was a boycott of Danish products starting in Saudi Arabia, and it spread out across the Middle East. Arla's sales actually dried up then. They did. And then on 3rd of February 2006, the company said that their sales in the Middle East had dried up completely, costing the company $2 million a day. So guess what they did? Guess what Arla did? They took out full-page advertising in Saudi Arabia, apologizing for the cartoons and indicating Arla's respect for Islam in the country. That's what they did. And there was absolute huge backlash in Denmark, where women's organizations and some politicians criticized Arla and called on Danish women to boycott Arla's products in Denmark, because obviously there's a lot about Islam that is exceedingly regressive through the eyes of Westerners towards women. Oh, Cara, I'll get to that, 2 seconds. And so they did that. And then Arla eventually managed to get back in with the Saudis and Middle East, but only by paying them, by sponsoring what were known as so-called humanitarian causes in the Middle East to foster good public relations with the region. Yes, ideology. Cow manure is wholesome and enriching, says Ian. Ian, I get you. Right, Cara is asking me about, what do I think of that Anthony Summers book, Looking for Madeline? It's a PR job, Cara. It's a PR job. Plus his assertion the McCann parents were not involved in her disappearance. Here's what I'll say, Cara, is Madeleine McCann was not abducted. The 9 adults who were with her have never been thoroughly investigated. They have never done a police reconstruction. They only did a reconstruction for police they hired for a Channel 4 program. The 9 adults should have been investigated by Operation Grange. Anthony Summers and his partner, can't remember her name, were also part of the cheerleading crowd when poor Brenda Leyland was doorstepped by media gatekeeper Brunt. They were on his report, the one that aired 24/7. That book is a piece of, frankly, it's PR. Whereas Kate McCann's book appears to me to be something of a confessional. The Summers, is it Summers and Swan? The Summers and Swan book is pure PR. I mean, it's literally the PR narrative that we've all heard. It's BS, Cara. Ask me a straightforward question, get a straightforward answer. That's me all over, right? Anything else I want to reflect on before we get to the last item? Just to say, statement in response to the declaration of state of emergency in California. I'm going to put a link in the description because I don't have time to go through this story. But essentially, Governor Gavin Newsom, awful man, has declared a state of emergency in response to the H5N1 bird flu outbreak. It's a troubling outreach, of course, that unnecessarily disrupts the lives of California residents. So say the World Council for Health, who strongly oppose the use of lockdowns as a tool to prevent the spread of bird flu. I told you on Monday about California. They decided that bird flu was now impacting the cows and they wanted your raw milk. And so, yeah, Governor Gavin Newsom. And also, I want to quickly show you this. This is interesting. Watch this, people. Oops. This is Sausage Fingers Charles, and this is he was at a service this week, and he's talking to a homeless man. I don't know if you can hear it. Check it out.
So are you based nearby? I sleep locally in the streets in Massachusetts. Acrylic on. It's quite different from this. Just any materials.
you know, I've not had a studious face. So
did you get that? Oh, Sausage Finger says, are you based nearby? And the guy says, yeah, I sleep out in the street, basically round the corner. And Charles and the religious man behind him don't know what to do with an actual homeless person who's also an artist. And so Charles is like, oh, acrylic paint. They should be so ashamed. Like the equivalent of that man with his art should be like a cross and garlic to a vampire. Fish fingers on a Friday. Humans have the choice. What's that, Reba? What's Reba talking about? Yeah, horrible. Reba, I completely agree with you. It's horrible what they do to animals. It's wrong, 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 wrong. Right. People, we have 6 minutes left before showtime ends, right? And I want to talk about being uncontrollable. And I don't mean in a wild and in an anarchic way, not the way that they've portrayed it, just what Marie and I were just talking about. I am, as I've said before, your original F around and find out gal. Ask those who tried it with me, because I am not easy to control. And I'm not easy to control because there was a period in my life when I was, right? When I was more vulnerable. And now I'm not. Thank you, MK Ultra. Salutations to you too as well, Poppet. And that was when I was more vulnerable and easier to control, but not these days. And so what I've learned about is the power of not just being uncontrollable, but the power of being unbothered. If the world can reach out to touch you, even attack you, provided you and yours are safe, there is no power greater than the ability to be unbothered in whatever controlling situation you find yourself in. Being able to see what is going on while remaining untouched by it is a state of mind I truly recommend that you reach. As I say, I spent years being impacted by controlling people, from school teachers who negatively impacted me to abusive people throughout my life. In recent years, that has changed, where once controlling people were able to get to me in some way, they no longer can. And they know it. They know it. And that is because I am infused with the power of being uncontrollable. And as I say, I don't mean being crazy. I mean knowing who you are to such a degree, you claim yourself as the first person you listen to in all matters. Self-determination, your sovereign self. Control yourself, else someone else control you. Okay? And the thing is that when you become uncontrollable, everybody else who's tried to control you, they have to change. They have no alternative, because you stopped responding or reacting to them in the way that they can control you. And I have long learned the importance of resisting psychopaths and narcissists in my life. And one way to be uncontrollable is to greet people with silence. If they try something odd, be silent. You're unbothered. They can't touch you. They can't even touch the sides of you. And it takes some work, right, to learn to do that. But I would like to say that these days I respond rather than react. When somebody says something crappy to me, either social media or sends me something or whatever, or I encounter somebody gruesome in the streets or shops or whatever, I do everything within my power to try and maintain it. Now, that is not always possible. That is not always possible. But one of the things that I do know is that manipulators, deliberate manipulators, cannot control me. They cannot, because I'm onto them. I see through them. I recognize the signs. And I want you to recognize the signs. Whoever can relate to this, whoever this resonates with, this is for you. It's for you. You're welcome, Gwyneth. Thank you, Sonia. Good advice this morning, as I'm about to open an email from a solicitor who I feel abused by. Silence is a strong response, short order cook. It completely destroys the manipulator because they've got nothing to work with. I love it. Silence is deafening. Yes, it is, KB. And it's not just deafening, but it also speaks volumes. What do you need to practice? We are so similar in our life stories, Sonia. Yes, probably we are, Shug, which is why we get on so well. Don't forget to hit the like button, everyone, says Masbro. Indeed. So know who you are, right? Manipulation is about making you react and respond in ways that are not natural to yourself. So you have to get to know yourself first. You really do. And you have to have empathy for yourself, right? Empathy for yourself and for your strengths and for your powers. Thank you, John. I appreciate that very much. So I'm going to give you some basic steps of taking back control if you are under the control of somebody else. And that is establish boundaries. Absolutely establish boundaries. The foundation for disarming controllers is to set firm boundaries. This is where I begin and end, and this is where you begin and end. And don't trespass. Maintain an emotional distance. There are people that I've loved throughout my life, but I have to keep at a distance because they're not good for me. And that's just a reality of life. And use clear communication, and silence is clear communication. You are not worthy of my time and energy. I'm going to park you. And I might just dispense with you. But yeah, silence is clear communication in its own right. And focus on the facts. When somebody tries to manipulate you in some way, they will try and take you out of your head, take you into your emotions, try and make you feel scared and worried. Okay, focus on the facts of the situation, because the thing about manipulators and controllers is they will distort reality to fit their narrative. Honestly, half the time they have no clue what reality is anymore because they're so delusional, and they will only surround themselves by people who are equally as delusional as themselves because they cannot bear, being revealed and exposed. Cultivate your self-confidence, people. And if you need, seek support either here or professionally. And I just want to say thank you all for joining us this morning. You are wonderful people, and I love being with you. And make sure you practice self-care as well, and know when to walk away. I am supreme walk-awayer. I learned a long time ago the importance of walking away. No matter how pulled you feel to say the last word or whatever, just walk away. You're bigger, you're greater than all of this. And I just want to end with this quote. I cannot always control what goes on outside, but I can always control what goes on inside. Indeed. And on that note, it is exactly 11 a.m. I want to thank you all, every single one of you wonderful people in the live chat. Thank you for watching on playback. Thank you for everybody who contributes to this show. I truly appreciate you. And thank you to our two wonderful, glorious mods. Love you all. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you Monday. Thank you all for being here today. Take excellent care of yourself. Love you lots. See you Monday.